Hi, everyone. Welcome to Career Conversations. I'm Meera Jogasundram. Our guest today, Mariska Maas, is an illustrator, book cover designer, and interior formatter with a to be read list that never seems to end. She loves drawing and all things creative. She loves how it has given her the opportunity to bring someone else's imagination to life. She has always been a huge bookworm and has completely felt at home in the book industry ever since she started working there 3 years ago. She can't wait to spend many more years in it. Hi, Mariska.
Hi, Mira. Thank you for that lovely introduction. It's lovely to be here.
You're very welcome. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling tiny bit nervous, but I think we'll be fine. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, you look super cool to me. How's the
Thank
weather in
you.
the Netherlands?
Oh, I'm happy it's getting a lot lighter right now because the winter is passing, but it's still mostly rain. They say England is the wettest country in the world. I'm not so sure anymore.
Okay. Mariska, I can't wait to hear about your career journey because you are one of those young people, significantly younger than me, my generation, and the way you think, your entrepreneurship, it has always amazed me. So please tell us about your career journey.
Thank you. That's really kind. I would have to say when I first started working in the book industry was through college because I got an internship at a Dutch publishing agency. And I always loved books. I always loved art. But the fact of combining it and actually getting a feasible job out of it was a bit harder. Because you know the starving artist stereotype? It's not there for nothing. It's very hard to earn your money with it. And I'm very privileged to have been able to do so. And through my college, I got my first internship at a publishing house where I started on the social media team and on the designing team. I had never made a book before the time, and my boss was like, just have this book. You have a few months of time. Go ahead, try it out. And it was very much a learning curve, very exciting. But if I look back at that first book, sometimes I I can still spot how much different I did then than I did now. And after that internship, I stayed to work at the publishing house. I even got in contact with them through them with Cutting Edge Studios, where I know you from. And I used to work for yours for a year, in which I got into contact with indie authors, like people who publish their own books. So I got a bit of both roles. I had the traditional publishing house, which I worked in part time on that side, and then the indie authors. And then through college, I had to do an entrepreneurship thesis, and I was like, well, how can I combine those two? And I make my own design agency, Rebrard, in which I use all the knowledge that I got over the last 3 years from the traditional publishing industry and translate that to a way that I can help indie authors, people publish their own books, to create their books for them and just give them tips and tricks and a little bit of the inside scoop on how they can make their books successful design wise.
Okay, Mariska, that was a very fast summary. I
Sorry.
love that. I love that because I know where you're coming from, but I'm thinking about our viewers. Now,
Yes.
can you please tell our viewers about Cutting Edge Studio
hmm
and how you got introduced to that?
So, Cutting Edge Studio was just starting out when I had first learned from it. Joris, the owner, was looking for people for interior formatters and cover designers. And at the time, I was working with Yen, my boss at the Dutch publishing house, and she was like, "Hey, I know this person who really needs some help. Are you available for that?" So it was very much networking wise and connection wise that I got the gig in the first place. And I said yes, showed my portfolio, and luckily got accepted. And there, once again, I had very much still to learn because I had never made an ebook before, for instance. And your office was like, "You know how to do that, right?" And I said, "Yes, of course I know how." And then I looked up like 12 videos on how to make an ebook. And that's how I got there.
Viewers, Cutting Edge Studio is a company that provides specialized services for independent authors. and Mariska was doing gigs for them. Am I right?
Yes, I was doing whenever you were sent an offer, we need the book done, like the interior formatting or the design, you would send me a message or another interior format. It was like, are you available for this project right now? Would you like to take it on? And then I got, I think on average, a book a week when I was very actively working there. Yes.
Yoris is the co-founder of Cutting Edge Studio,
Yeah.
right? Okay, now I want to backtrack a bit because you
Hmm.
you started off with your how you wanted to combine art and book design, but I am curious about when you first discovered that book design is what you want to do.
I think it was during that first internship. Like I always loved to do artwork, but I knew there wasn't any money to make in it. The competition was so big. And through that internship, I got the opportunity to make book covers, to make interior formatting. And even though it's a very small world, because I had that in, I could get enough jobs out of it, enough books to be able to actually make a living. So from that moment that I made my first book, I made my first cover, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do because it is a combination of both of my hobbies and the fact that it is actually in the world and in stores and on bookshelves. That part especially is has made this like a very great achievement in my life. I'm very happy and honored to have been able to do that.
How old were you when you made this discovery?
I think I think my first book that I did was published just as I about turned 20. That was the first book I did. That's been now 3 years, a little bit more than 3 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So let me just get this straight. You're studying in university
Yeah.
and you were interning at a publishing house,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you have worked with indie authors,
Yes, as well.
independent authors. Okay.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what what is the difference between an independent author and an author who goes the traditional route?
Mm-hmm. I think it definitely depends a lot on what works for what offer. Because independent offers, most of the time, what I've realized is that they love to do, they want creative freedom, they want more royalties, they want to have to be able to put their story out there no matter what. So the traditional route is sadly enough also not available for everyone because not every book can get accepted. And some people who love publishing traditionally, they have managed to get in. They love that there is an editor, that they love that everything is getting paid for. It's they just have to focus on writing. That's what they love, that's what they do, that's what they're good at. And they are so satisfied with that. But an example, for instance, that I know, an author that I used to work with, well, not work with, but my publisher used to work with, she actually went from traditional publishing back to indie publishing because she was writing so many books that the publisher could not keep up. So she started publishing her own books again to be able to keep up the schedule that she wanted, to put the amount of books out that she wanted. It really depends on what works for that specific person.
Would I be would I be correct in saying that when you're an independent author, you have the freedom, you have a say and a lot of control in determining the cover design, the formatting style, the content of the book, which is supposed to reflect your
Hmm.
authenticity. Is that correct?
Exactly, because when you're self-publishing, you're the one taking all the risks, so you have the liberty to make all the decisions. With a publisher, they take the risk on to take in the book, and they have to make a profit, because if they don't, they are the one having to pay for it. But when you're self-publishing, you're the one taking the risk. So if you want, like, for instance, you want a ginormous book that is this thick about whatever topic truly interests you have the liberty to put that out there in the world, and even if it doesn't sell, it's fine because you're the one putting in the risk. So you get to decide everything you want. There's that is that's the great part that you have about indie publishing.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Who do you
Hmm.
prefer to work with?
Ooh, it depends. I have perks and downsides of both. because I love working with indie authors because I have a lot more personal connection with the people who are working on the project. Because most of the time it's a passion piece of theirs, so they have so many ideas and they get so excited, and I get feedback like messages and videos that I'm getting happy. That is what I truly love. But also with traditional, for instance, it's sometimes easier to work with because they have more experience in the industry itself. So if I am stuck on an issue, they can help me get ahead, or they have different kind of feedback, or they know what the trends are, or I would say especially the revision part of projects it takes a lot less time. But at the same
It takes
time,
less
it
time with who?
depends.
Takes
It
less.
takes less time with a publisher most of the time because it's not as personal to them. And of course, it is personal. There is little less focus on the details. Like, yes, the details are important, but when you're working with an author who has seen this image in their head for years and years, they really have this vision and you want to make it possible. But it's possible that you then have like 5 to 6 revision rounds extra to make it that perfect. And to get the end result is most definitely worth it. But it takes more time, which is fully fine because they're happy, I'm happy. But it does make it easier sometimes with publishers.
Okay. Now, um, I wouldn't say normally, but
Mm-hmm.
many young people after university, they start off working for someone full time,
Mm-hmm.
and they work for someone full time for quite some time. Now, what was the motivating factor for you to start your own company, Rubra Art?
Well, for me, it was mostly I had already been working 3 years part-time in the publishing industry, gathering information, gathering knowledge. And when I got out of college, the publisher that I was working for wasn't able to give me a full-time position. She had told me that beforehand. And I was like, fine, because I really wanted to get into the indie book market as well. So I decided, well, if he can give me a part-time position, which I now have for 12 hours a week, I will keep doing that. I will keep love to do that because I get all the knowledge and the inside scoops and everything. But I can also get a little piece of myself that I was really interested in the indie book market and all the people that are so passionate about their books that get so excited. And I wanted to work with them. So I decided to use the knowledge that I had gained over the last 3 years and be like, okay, just gonna put this out there, see who wants it, and I'll get started from there. And that is how it came to start.
But why the special interest in the indie market?
Well, I really love working with people personally, and with publishers, I was always working with my main publisher, and that was fine. But I wanted to know the person behind the book as well. And to be fair, with indie publishers, you get a lot more creative freedom because they are more experimental, they want to take more risk, and I love going all out with my designs, and I love doing illustrations, and that gave me the opportunity to go more into that direction and to find people who were willing to take that on as well. So it was also very much a passion project of mine to find people who are just as passionate.
So would it be accurate to say that you have more freedom to use or explore your creativity when you deal with indie authors?
I would say, in a sense, yes, because a lot of the times with the people that come to me for work, they are first-time indie authors and they are hoping to get some guidance as well. So, in comparison to a publisher who is very much aware of everything, who gets the final say, I now get a sense also to be able to educate people and to show different options of what could possibly be, and they're often more willing to also take a chance or to see how and what might work. It's more of a guidance position as well as in a sense of just being the.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, I got a notification on my headset. Should be fine.
No problem, no problem. So, tell us more about how Rubra Art, your company, came
Mhm.
into being.
I always had Ruber art as a side project a little bit. I know I wanted to do it, I've been wanting to do for the last 2 years. So the website has been existing since then, but it fully started taking shape in my last half year of college, in which I decided to do an entrepreneurship thesis. So I spent half a year of time, 3 months, fully educating myself in everything in the offer. What are the style choices? What do they like? What are the prices that they want? Interviewing people, doing surveys. And after that half year, I had a fully refurbished website. I had a price list. I had a portfolio set up. I had everything to get started on this business venture. And I am very happy that my college gave the time and also allowed me to graduate because it was workable and a success.
Okay. Now, this entrepreneurship thesis sounds interesting. Tell
Mhm.
us more about that.
So my college offered me to do four different kinds of options. One was entrepreneurship, one was making a product, and the other one was doing research. The fourth one I don't recall right now, but I knew I wanted my own company, so I decided why not do it on school's time instead. So they gave me a guidance counselor who would look in from time to time, but we got full creative freedom on what we wanted to do as long as they saw it to be feasible. It had to be specific enough. You had to have targets and goals, and if that was approved, you could get a go.
You said you knew you wanted to start your own company, right?
Yes.
I'm very curious about that because
Mm-hmm.
not many people, even in their mid 30s or mid 40s, they know for sure they want to, they have a desire,
Mm-hmm.
but not with this kind of conviction which you have displayed. I know I wanted to start my own company.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know?
Well, it was a conviction, but also a sense of necessity for the kind of work that I wanted to do. Because the books that I love to design are fantasy and romance and adult. And to get a full-time job in that as a designer is very, very hard. I live in the Netherlands. The Dutch book market is immensely small. And even if I were to be able to get into that, it's only like a very small shot for me to be able to get a full-time job into that. And working with indie offers as well, that would not even be a possibility then. So if I wanted to get best of both worlds, so traditional publishing and indie publishing, I would have to do it myself for the dream job that I wanted. And I'm happy it worked out as well as how well it has been going.
Congratulations. Now, your book designing process, I'm intrigued because I've been
Hmm.
following you on Instagram
Yeah.
and I look at your videos and the special effects and how you choose fonts, what are the options. Very, very educational. Your posts are very educational. Tell
Hmm.
us from the start to the end about your book designing process.
Okay, I can do that. It first of all starts with an offer requesting for me to work with them. They fill in the survey. They tell me what their book is about. They tell me what they want in it, what they like, what they don't like. I also ask them to send me some samples of books that they love, just so that I can get a clear picture of what it might be, and we don't have any miscommunications. When they have sent everything in, I'll make sure to read through it, especially focus on what the genre is and what design elements they already have, like for instance, a cover or something else to make sure that it matches. And from there on, I will make free mockups. And those are design mockups. And they basically are what the book could possibly look like once we do the whole finish. And then we normally go to the next step is when they decide which mockup they really love or what they might have to mix and match. So, for instance, they would have like a chapter design with a blue with flowers in the background, some cursive lettering, and a nice drop cap. And they could be like, "Oh, I really love this, but could you change the flowers into a tree?" And I would do that, and that would be the final mockup. And once that gets approved, I will start implementing the whole manuscript of their book, finalize the design, and then I always make sure that authors are able to read through the design another time because I make sure to very much keep them in the loop because it's their book after all, and they are they know it best. So I always make sure to have them have another look through it, pinpoint if there are any things that are amiss, like for instance, commas are missing or they miss some stuff in the manuscript. They can send me the changes. I'll make sure to finish it up. And then all the files should be ready for print, for ebook, or for cover printing. Or I make some more additional changes if they need it. So it's very much they give me all the info. I make mock-ups. We make a final mock-up. Uh, I make the full book, and then every time in between those steps, they get to have their say in the process about what they want changed, what they want to have added, until we're both fully happy with the end product.
What kind of illustrations are they? Your sketches, or is it AI, or is it a combination of photoshopping images? How do you do your
Mhm.
design?
Everything I do is hand drawn. I have
Everything.
everything. Yeah,
Wow.
that is my own motto. Um, the only time I don't do that is when offers specifically give me their images. Or for instance, I had a sci-fi book coming up, and it was book 4 in a free book series, and the three previous books already had images by the previous designer. So I made sure for consistency, it had an image in it as well. But most of my content, if I can help it, is all hand drawn, just to like refrain from getting any copyright issues or licenses. It just makes it a lot easier, and it gives a nice personal touch as well.
What are the challenges you encounter?
Um, Sometimes it is very hard to bring a certain vision to life because sometimes it's very specific, or it is just very hard to do, or it doesn't fall within the budget of the offer as well. Because if I'm thinking for an example, I have had to draw on animals multiple times for books, and I was not proficient in drawing animals at the time, and I communicated this as well very clearly. It got approved nonetheless, but sometimes things are still within my without out of my skill area. Most of the things I can do, and I'm very specialized in that. But sometimes you will always encounter a project where somehow you will still have to learn a lot of stuff.
Okay. And how do you overcome, before that, before the
Mhm.
overcoming part, do you encounter any challenges in terms of the clients you get and their demands?
I have been very happy to, I'm very privileged to have mostly very happy clients. But in the past, I have had two clients in which I have had to stop working with them. One was very much in my earlier years, and I wasn't as strong in my shoes as I am right now because I was starting out and I was very nervous and I was very much a people pleaser. But
Let me guess, you were a teenager then.
I was 20. I was just it was I think like my 10th book or something
Gosh,
that I did. And she was
amazing.
yeah, they were very needy, and there is like a sense of, yes, you're allowed to have all of this, but there were multiple miscommunications and changes later on which could have been prevented way up front. And then she didn't start paying my invoices, and I was like, yeah, we're leaving it at this. And it's mostly just in communication that sometimes there are just issues there. Most of the time it can be prevented, but sometimes there's just a lot of double work that could have been prevented earlier on if just communication was clear. That is most of the time the biggest issue that I have, which is something that might be cultural barrier or on both parties, on both ends, or they're just not as proficient as in bringing their image along. And that is quite sadly yeah, it's a bit frustrating on both parts because also for the offer, because they have like such a thing in their head which they want to talk about or like changes they want to do, and then it just gets lost in the many words that they send the emails in. But
You,
luckily, it doesn't happen that often, and I've been very privileged to work with amazing people. And over the last few years, it's only been happened twice, and I was like, yeah, this partnership doesn't work. You might need another person that works better with you, or just because it was better for my own sake. But luckily, very, very little that has happened.
do you have, or what do you do to ensure that that the delay, the procrastination, the lack of clarity
Hmm.
doesn't happen again or doesn't compromise your work? Do you have a system to counter that?
Yeah, I've definitely built in some fail safety measures over the years. For instance, I started doing my design forms, which basically an author just needs to fill in from start to finish, and then I have everything I need to get started. I don't have to email them 2 weeks into the projects or ask them for more details later. I just have it in one PDF, and it's like good to go. And I have been charging more for my time, and that was a very hard thing for me to do, especially because sometimes the book changes. I had a book out for like half a year, 3/4 of a year, and then they would come back with changes, some things that were like in the manuscript beforehand, which I couldn't have known, and I had to charge them for it, which was a bit hard for me to do because I was very much a people pleaser. But I learned that, and then people also start to respect your time a lot more, and that's a very hard step to do, but it does help you in the future as well.
Of course it does, and you're an entrepreneur. Okay. Now, what's your vision for book designs
Hmm.
in the years to come?
Luckily, for what I have seen, illustrations have been playing a lot of a bigger role in the current book designs. Like, of
Why
course,
is that?
photo. I don't.
Why do you think that is?
I think because it gives a lot more creative freedom, especially in the genres that I do. I think thrillers and such will always have photo-based covers, or at least a lot of them, because it's really easy to do. But when it comes to fantasy books with orcs and dragons and everything, it is way easier to have an illustrative drawn cover than for instance photo bashing, because you can't take a photo of a dragon. Very simple way to say it, but it gives a lot more creative freedom to convey everything that needs to be added, as well as, for instance, 3D modeling covers that I have seen some people do. Absolutely amazing work, and it can add with symbolism, little details to the story, or just give an overall vibe or feeling that people really like.
So, how do you see yourself leveling up your book designs
Mhm.
in the future, given that AI has always been around,
Mhm.
right, Mariska? It's always
Yeah.
been around. But do you see AI having any kind of impact?
Oh,
There are
AI.
two questions. Huh? How are you going to level up?
Mhm.
And what's the impact of AI?
I will start with the question regarding impact on AI, because it is already hugely happening. Authors are using it for examples of the characters, they're using it for cover art, they're using it for all different kinds. And I love that it is an affordable thing for people to get artwork done. Yes, I am sometimes a bit sad that it cuts in on my part of the field, but I love that the option is there, because truthfully, getting art done is very much a privilege, because not everyone is able to afford it. So that it is there is great, but I also appreciate the sense that there are copyrights laws being made for AI right now. Like, for instance, if I remember correctly, if you use AI for a cover, the copyright is not in you and other people can reuse it because it is very much not made by a human. So in that sense, my job gets a bit protected. So it has a bit of both ends. It's very much risky to use AI, but I can fully understand why people do it. And yes, the I'm thinking about what the first question was again.
The
Oh,
second
I will level up
question
my
was,
design. Yeah.
how do you intend to level up your designs?
I think it's mostly by improving my skills. Because if I compare what I did in my first year of work versus what I do now, it has already taken insane leaps in my skill level, in my way on how to use programs and how to make books. But I will try to keep improving my illustration skills, my formatting skills, as well as knowledge of the overall market and trends, and really try to play into that so that the books of the people I work with get the biggest, um, how would you put, I would say the biggest success, because people always say don't judge a book by its cover or by its interior formatting, but people will always do it nonetheless. It's
Of
the first
course.
people will see. And if I can make a cover that helps an author get another sale by, for instance, improving my other skills, then that's the least I can do.
Excellent. Now, Mariska, from what I understand, as an author myself,
Mm-hmm.
book designs are important, right? First
Yeah.
impression, they are important. But I tend to give equal importance for
Mm-hmm.
formatting what's inside the book. It's very important for me.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that?
It's kind of funny that you asked this because I made a social media post about this, I think, last week. And I had some people in my comments saying the exact same thing. Because even though your book might be really amazing, if it is not readable for your audience and not organized, it is very hard for a person to go through your book. I think a prime example, for instance, of how interior formatting can go wrong is font size. Like a lot of children's literature is, I think, like 14 points is like a lot bigger to read. And if you, for instance, put like a bigger font in your new adult novel, people will open the book and think, "Oh, that's not for me." Close it again, put it away.
Why?
Or
Why would they think that?
because a lot of children's literature books, they are have bigger fonts. So they have like
Okay.
16-point fonts or 14. They're a lot bigger. And if you put that same size, big size font into an adult novel, people will automatically think, "Oh, this is for children." It is very subconscious a lot of the time
I didn't
when that
think about that,
happens.
but I suppose it's true.
Yeah,
Okay.
we also went to with my traditional publishing house. They went to a sales fair, and we had a children's book, one before I worked there, which was, I think, a smaller font. And the store already said, like, yeah, we can't buy this because it's too small. Children can't read this, and they just didn't even bother buying it. Or it, for instance, another example is when it comes to chapter design. If the book isn't properly indented or following the base rules of what a book should look like, people will get confused and it will limit the reading experience. It is very nuanced, but in the back of their mind, it will still happen. It's
What is
intuitive feeling.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But thanks for highlighting those factors because I didn't know that font size, come to think of it, it does matter. It really, because
Yeah.
children's books have larger fonts, right? So
Hmm.
we are programmed to look at it that way or
Yeah,
not look at
exactly.
it that way. Yeah. So, what is your formatting process?
I think formatting for me, what helps is that I do it a lot. I think I formatted over 80 books right now from the
Wow.
top of my head across all genres. And how I used to start very much was look at bestsellers in the category that I'm working on. What do Penguin do? What does HarperCollins do? What do the big do? Just to make sure that it's up to standard with what they're putting out there, because that's the most important part. You want to rival the best out there. So all the base guidelines like indentation, drop caps, titles. I know that's a lot of business words. It's not that important to say how the book looks. I make sure it is up to par of that. And then from that, as previously mentioned, I make the free mock-ups. One is most of the time very extravagant. It has everything, like all the sparkles, all illustrations.
No, that's a bit
Yeah.
fast for me. I didn't
Oh,
quite get you.
sorry.
What is this now? What is this? Do you know why, Mariska? I'm asking you about formatting because
Hmm.
people tend to trivialize formatting,
Yeah.
right? And I find that this is my opinion.
Hmm.
Formatting to enhance, to have the best reading experience,
Yeah.
formatting is crucial. So I don't want the viewers to miss out anything that you were saying. Sorry for interrupting.
No,
Slowly
fully. Go.
take us through the
Yes.
process.
Yes, thank you for interrupting because it's very important that they are able to learn. That's always what I love to do is teach as well. Is most important aspects to keep in mind is to make sure, for instance, that every chapter is on a new page. Make sure you have a nice chapter header on top. Add some space. Then you start your chapter. If you want to be fancy, you add a drop cap, which is a bigger letter at the start of your first paragraph. Make sure to have some indentation every paragraph. That's like the little space in front of the first line. When you have scene breaks, make sure there is a white line or add an illustration in the middle just to make it clear that it is happening. Because a time skip without it, it's very confusing.
Time skip,
Like when you have a scene break, is for instance when there is
10
a
years
time.
later.
Yeah, for instance,
Okay.
or like they skip to that afternoon. if you don't add the scene break in there or make it clear it is there, it can be quite throw the reader off quite a bit. Another,
That's very true. That's
mhm,
very true.
yeah. Another thing to keep in mind is add page numbers. Make sure they are nicely centered or on the outside. Or add, for instance, on top in your header, add your chapter title or add the title of your book and your author name, just to give it a little bit of extra. Another thing to keep in mind, which is not off, it depends on the person, is make sure that the last page of your chapter doesn't have like two lines on top and then a whole lot of white space.
Oh, okay.
When there, for instance, are only two lines in the end. But I think the biggest, easiest thing to do is get your three favorite books that you love and just spread them out before you and note what they all have in common. That is the easiest way to learn how to do it. Just see what the best do and try to add it into your own book.
There are lots of nuances.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And most of the time, even I am 3 years into the job and I still learn new things every time.
So, what would be the difference between fiction and not fiction formatting?
I think especially I go back to font choices because that is very often what it comes down to
And that is what I
is
tend to overlook. I mean, I myself have, I've not given that much of importance to font size or even the fonts, Mariska.
mhm.
So, I mean, why? Tell us.
For instance, for fiction, it's very common to use, if I say correctly, I think it's serif fonts, like the one with little hooks, like Times New Roman or Garamond, like all the books that you would see more as old-fashioned. While nonfiction books sometimes have fonts like Arial, which are way smooth, more slick. It is way more, it is less ornamental, I would say, in a sense as well. And especially with fiction, depending on the genre, like fantasy books have a lot more curls, more frills. They're way more into that. While thriller is way more bold and they scream at you in the face. While horror, for instance, could have way more sharp angles. It is how I would like to describe it is if you have a genre and you have a feeling with it, you have to make sure that the font you're using has the same feeling. It is screaming the same way at you as the genre would.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. There are
It is
so many
not that easy
details.
to start with, sadly enough.
Sorry,
You
what
have to
did
have
you
a,
say? What did you?
sadly enough, you have to have a bit of an eye for it sometimes. Like I have my boyfriend looking in on my designs and I show him two different options and he's like, "What is the difference?" And I am there like, "No."
I get you. I get you. A lot of details which, I tend to overlook as well. So that is why it's important to get the opinion of the experienced person who is handling your work. It's so
Hmm.
important. Do you guide your clients as well?
Yeah, I definitely try to guide them and take them through the process, and I try to explain why I make certain decisions. So, for instance, when I choose a specific font or a different illustration, I try to explain like you use this kind of theme in your book, so I'm trying to use this as a way to convey it as a visual aspect. And when they ask questions, I always try to answer them. And a lot of my social media presence is almost also focused on educating authors. So I put tip videos out there regarding font choices or why I do certain things or how they can do it themselves. Because as I said before, it is not available for everyone to hire a book designer. So while I can, I try to help as many of them for free as well. Because every author deserves a beautiful book that is up to par.
I'm curious, Mariska, because you're still
Hmm.
very young,
Yeah.
relatively. What are the possibilities of you branching off into something related to book designs, not exactly book design?
Mhm. I think it depends a bit. I am only one person, so sadly enough, my time is very limited. But I've already been branching out because I started with interior formatting and then I branched out to cover work as well. And I'm
What work?
also do
Sorry,
cover work, cover design.
cover work. Okay.
Yeah. And On the other side, I also work as a foreign rights assistant. So I sell book rights to other countries. I represent them a bit for the publishing house. So I'm still trying to gather as much knowledge as I can and see what else do I like and what else can I do, and then try to specialize in that as much as I can. I would love to do an audiobook one time, but I just need to have the time to be able to pursue it. This
You
is
mean
currently,
narrating an
yeah,
audiobook?
narrating. I would
Okay.
love to do that at one point, but right now I'm putting all my focus on this to make sure the base is fine, it is up and running, and after that I can see what else piques my interest.
From the way you have described things and all that you have said so far, I can't wait to see how you expand. I
Me
know you
neither.
will. I know in my mind,
Mhm,
I know you will. I just can't wait to see what else or what all you would be doing in the
mhm.
future. All the best to you for that.
Secretly, I wouldn't mind expanding or hiring, taking someone on in my company as well at one point. But I first need a bit more clients for that. But that would also be really gratifying, I think, if I could actually start hiring people to join my company. But that is for like in the future.
I'm sure that will happen, Mariska. I mean, if you start when you're a teenager or when you're 20, it's just, sooner rather than later that you'll be hiring people. Okay. Now, what is your definition of owning your career?
I would say owning your career is having a career that you're happy to do and that you yourself find gratification in. Like, don't care about what anybody else does. You don't have to necessarily be sufficient to society. You don't have to make a lot of money. As long as you're happy with it and you can do it for the rest of your life, or at least for the upcoming 10 years, that is owning your career. You have to stand behind what you do.
Be authentic.
Be authentic, be yourself, and be happy while doing so. Of course, you're allowed to dislike it every now and then because no job is ever 100% nice, but you just have to be happy with it. That's the most important part.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Your descriptions have been very succinct, very, very sharp to the point. You know, I can expect nothing less from you. Before we close, would
Mhm.
you like to tell our viewers anything?
Um, of course, I can try at least. I would have to say if you want to own your own career, especially as what Mira has been doing with all these amazing conversations of hers, try some other samples, try to see what you like, what you don't like, and even if you want to branch out and do something completely different, try it out, see where it takes you. And if you ever need help with any cover design, interior formatting, or illustration, or whatever, you could always come to me, or you can come to my socials and just learn for free. Because truthfully, every book deserves like a really, really nice interior that matches perfectly.
Beautiful, beautiful. Mariska, it's been fascinating having this conversation with you. I learned a lot. I always learn a lot, and especially today. And I know our viewers will learn a lot as well. I want to say this again. I can't wait to see how you expand your company and how far you go. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting journey. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for
Likewise, thank you
spending
for
your time
having
with
me.
us. You're very welcome, Mariska. It was such a pleasure, and keep please keep doing those social media posts, educational posts. Keep
Mhm.
doing whatever you're doing, your designs, your drawings. Um, I'm just fascinated.
I
Inspiring,
can't wait.
inspiring.
I can't wait to see where you end up either, Mira, and I hope we can keep working together. It's been a long
We
day,
will, we
sorry.
will, we will. Thank you so much, viewers. Um, it has been a pleasure having you join us, whether you're watching the live stream or the recording. I'm sure you will enjoy this session and all our future sessions and previous sessions as well. Thank you very much. Until we meet again the next time. Bye.